Tuesday to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiropractic Rocks, Chiro Tax Pro, and Digital Hustle. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 220 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millette. Here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Armand Rossi, and if you want to know about the Fountainhead to Sparkle City, stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today, episode 220 of the Chiro Hustle podcast, we have Dr. Armand Rossi coming in from Sparkle City, which is out there where Sherman College of Chiropractic resides. And we are coming in at Chiro Hustle headquarters out here in Grand Junction, Colorado, delivering from the Mile High State. And as we go live today, we just want to thank Dr. Rossi for being our guest today. And we just wanted to acknowledge you for being on with us.
Well, my pleasure. I'd love to share.
Yeah, and I know that we're going to have a great message today talking about the chiropractic profession, talking about your upstart into this beautiful profession of chiropractic. And I don't know your story, but we did talk a little bit about your accolades and some of your journey that you've been on off of camera. So if you could just share with our audience today your chiropractic story and what got you into the chiropractic profession, that I'm sure that will enlighten many hearts and minds out there.
Well, it's very unique and different from a lot of people, I suppose. Most people get involved with chiropractic because of an athletic injury or something like this. I did also, but it was different. I was 5 years old. Now, what had happened to me was I was born a very sickly child. I had bad asthma, allergies, and I was always very ill. I used to have to sleep with an oxygen tank at my side in case I had a bad attack at that time. Now, I'm also older, so that was in the 1950s. And so one day I was at my grandmother's house, and we were playing, me and my sister, and I fell down a short flight of steps. And after I fell down the steps, I skinned up my knees, skinned up my elbows, and, I was crying or whatever. But those got patched up, and I went right back to playing. But the next day, after that, I started getting sick, like flu-type sickness, okay? And my mother did the typical thing any mother would do. She, took my temperature, put me in bed, gave me chicken soup, lots of fluids, and just made me rest. Only problem was, as each day went by, it was about a total of 4 days, I got worse every day. I didn't want to eat. Didn't want to do anything, didn't want to get out of bed. And at the end of these 4 days, my mother comes in the room to check on me. And when I look up at her, my eyes crossed inward very severely, and they would not uncross. And I started seeing double vision of everything. So as you can imagine, at that point, my mother was in a panic. And she took me to a cousin of our family, and we lived in New Jersey. And the cousin was in Huntington, Long Island, in New York, and took me to him, who was a medical doctor. And he did his exam on me, and he determined that he was going to immediately put me in the hospital, do surgery as the first thing, clip my muscles to my eyes and straighten out my eyes. Then the next thing they were going to do was take x-rays to see if I might have a brain tumor, because that's what he was suspecting. Now, back then, they didn't have scans like they have today. So what they were going to do back then was inject a dye into my skull through my ear and take x-rays. Look at that. Well, my mother and my father both decided that, thank you, but let's see if we can do something a little more conservatively at first, right? So my mother had an uncle in northern New Jersey who had become a chiropractor. And so she took me over to see him. His name was Frank Fasulo, and he was the first chiropractor in our family. And he checked me, and he said that I have some nerve interference in the upper part of my neck. And he said that he'd like to work with that. And what was so impressive to my mother was he said, look, he's my nephew. I'm not going to endanger his life by doing anything weird. He said, if we need to, we can always get the surgery done later, but let's try this first. Made sense to my mother. So we went ahead and I started to get adjusted. Well, first day, second day, third day, we went there every day. I either got adjusted or at least checked every day. Nothing was happening. I was still the same. She was getting discouraged. Now, he's told her something that, and this is a good lesson for younger chiropractors or whatever. He said to her, wasn't he getting worse every day before? And she said, yes, he was. Okay. And he said, now he's the same. That's actually improvement. It's like trying to stop a car going downhill. Sometimes you got to run alongside and pull it to a stop first before you push it back up the hill. So she said, okay. So we continued. And then into the next week, I started little by little getting some more life back to me, where I would sit up, I'd start to want to eat, little changes like this. And then probably a total of 2 to 3 weeks into this, my mother walks in the room, I'm sitting up in bed. When I look at her, my eyes focus on her and they straighten out, right back to being straight. And then I fully recover from this. The other thing that was so wise about my uncle at the time was she was going to quit bringing me to him because I was better. And he said, well, wait a minute. He goes, he's better. His symptoms are better, but he still has nerve interference going on in there. He said, let's put him on a schedule so we can correct that nerve interference totally and not just worry about the symptom, but get him doing better totally. So she said, okay. So now it wasn't going up every day. And we went to 3 times a week, then twice a week, and once a week, and this type of stuff. But within the first 6 to 8 months of care, my allergies started to disappear. And then in a year's time, my asthma completely stopped. I was the kid that was so sickly, I really couldn't play outside. But then after that, in junior high school and high school, I played football, ran track, and played basketball or wrestling with that too. So I grew up a much healthier kid. And from that day forward, a chiropractor was my doctor. And changed my life with it, obviously.
And how old were you when all this journey started?
Well, how old was I? 5 was when I fell down the stairs.
And now I know you've been doing some work with ICPA, and you've been a part of that group for 25 years.
Yep.
What does it mean for you to work with other doctors and to be able to help facilitate this type of practice for other people?
It means the world to me because everyone on this planet should get checked for subluxations, and that's from the day they're born until the day they die. They need to be checked because if you're alive, and this is one of the things that Reggie Gold said to me years ago and talked to many people about this, if you're alive with nerve interference, you've got to be better off without the interference, whether you have a symptom or not. I mean, it just makes total sense. So that's what we've done. We preach that, we teach it, we practice it. And that's one of the beautiful things. And I was very fortunate to get to learn from Reggie at a very young age with that. I started chiropractic school in September 1971. And I went to Columbia Institute of Chiropractic in New York. And I was paired up with a palpation partner in our first palpation class. And my partner was Irene Gold. That's what I got paired up with. And so, she took me to the house. We got to sit and talk with Reggie. And so I learned from a very young age. I was 20 years old at the time. Then we started to go there. And I transferred, which was Irene was pushing me to do. I transferred at that time to Palmer College because that was the Fountainhead at that time. And I was young and single, so it was great. Irene pushed me to do that. So.
I have to say, congrats to your mom for having the knowledge and the foresight to try something way less invasive before all that other horrible stuff you mentioned.
Oh, my goodness. I bless her every day. And, she's passed on now, but she had been through some. Let me tell you something very interesting. That's a little side note. Remember I said I was a sickly child when I was young. And so this was during the time of polio and all the vaccines, the smallpox vaccines and polio and all this kind of stuff. And so my mother was concerned and talked to members of the family, and she went to the medical doctor and talked to him, and he said, I don't think that I should be vaccinated because I had too much going on that could be disturbed by a vaccine. So they gave me waivers back then, and I never was vaccinated. Later on, when I was 7 or 8 years old, 8 and 9 years old, the school nurse paid a visit to my mother and accused her of being a bad parent because I was not vaccinated. And she's, my mother, my family's Italian, typical Italian. This nurse did this, she cried and she felt bad, and then she got eaten. The nurse was fired from her position at the school after that. But, she was wise beyond the knowledge at that time.
So what are some mantras that you live your life by? And maybe what are some of your favorite phrases or motivational quotes?
The most favorite motivational quote for me is, no one knows what small thing one may say, think, or do today that will affect the lives of countless millions tomorrow. Because the part of that phrase that is, no one knows what small thing you may say, think, or do today. Action is important, but the way you think can change lives of millions tomorrow. And that's been a big thing to me, because it's taught me to watch my own thoughts, because your thoughts are creating your reality and the reality around you, and that's a very important part with this as well. That's my most favorite. I have a side story about that if you want to hear it, but that might take too long.
Well, I do want to hear that, but I wanted to go back to something you said earlier about Irene urging you to go to the Fountainhead and you being able to learn from Reggie at 20 years old.
Yeah.
You just had the gold touch. And I think that that's something profound within the profession. As anybody that's ever been around Reggie or Irene, they've passed their classes, they've learned technique, they've got philosophy, they can discuss chiropractic at a very high level, and it's not the hammered into somebody type of discussion of chiropractic. It's the nurturing style of explanation of what chiropractic is. And I've learned that from all the people that I've had access to, either Irene or Reggie, is that those two figureheads of chiropractic have helped so many people understand the reality of what chiropractic does for people, not just what it is, but I wanted to acknowledge that moment that you shared with us about having a relationship with the Golds. Yeah,
and we still do. Many times when Irene comes up here to Sherman, she stays at our house, and we still go out and have dinner and have fun together and the whole thing right now. So it's pretty neat. I'm very blessed and very fortunate, and other people I've met along the way too with that.
And before we get into your story about the motivational quote that you really like about touching lives and what you think and say would have impact on people, let's talk a little bit about the time that you've come from Palmer to Life West to now Sherman, and what it's been like for you to be on this journey.
Okay. Well, after I graduated from Palmer, my former wife was going to go become a chiropractor, but she didn't want to stay in the Quad Cities. And we had been going to the DE meetings in Atlanta. And we were there. In fact, we were students who were there the night that they talked about building a college, and that was Life College. And so when Life College was in existence, it still hadn't had a graduating class. She decided that she wanted to start there. And I came down to Life College as an instructor. One of my good friends was Dr. Jerry Klum, who from up at Palmer, and he was a registrar and the director of admissions at Life College. And so he put in a good word for me, and I came down there and became an instructor while my wife went to school. And I also started a practice there at Life, and it grew. We did fine there. Enjoyed all of that. Then when she graduated, we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where I had met a person named Al Reach, who was another mentor of mine. And Al had these Reach chiropractic centers out in Phoenix. And I came out there, and we both came out there to work there. And I wound up becoming the doctor, one of the doctor supervisors to help them train the other doctors there. Because this is multi offices. We had something like 7 offices, 14 doctors, and things like this. And we worked out there. And then after a divorce, I moved back to Atlanta and went back to teach again at Life College from 1992 to 97 at that point. After a while there, I had gotten remarried, and we moved to Florida, where I had my parents and my sister and my aunt still living, and I bought a practice down in Florida, and I worked at that practice for 20 years. And then as I was retiring from practice, because I had been in practice that for 40 years at the time, at least, and I had an opportunity to come up here at Sherman. But before that, while I was in practice, I was asked, and I went on the board of Regents at Life West out in California. Ron Oberstein, who's the president out there now, was a friend of mine from years ago, and he asked me to think about joining the board, which I did. I spent 3 years on the board, then came off the board, and that's when, after that, this opening came up at Sherman. I applied for it and was very fortunate to get on board here at Sherman. And the thing I love about being here is their philosophy, the strength of their philosophy, the strength of their technique programs, the strength of their science here too. It's incredible. I'm right now taking the part in the ACP program, the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers, that Bill Decken runs here, and I'm one of the students of that program. One of the other students of that program was Dr. Chris Kent. Okay, and Chris and I both started here at Sherman College at the same time. He had been on the board here, but came off the board, and he started as the director of scholarly activity and research now here. And we both came at the same time. Now, this is really fun, okay? When you start at Sherman, if you are not a Sherman graduate, you are required to take at least first quarter philosophy here. Now, that's not just faculty, that's anybody who works here, staff, maintenance, whatever. They have to take first quarter philosophy. Faculty have to take the first 2 quarters, philosophy 1 and 2. So we walked in there, and Chris Kent and I are in the class as students in first quarter philosophy. And we had a ball with it. We loved it. It was great. So
what you're saying is when I come work at Sherman, I have to go through these courses?
That's right.
You get to.
That's right.
I'll take it.
But it's great. And everybody loves it. Everybody loves it.
So how do you think the world would change if every person got adjusted when necessary since birth?
Well, we would be more connected. It doesn't, like, I wouldn't say we would be totally healthy at all times, not necessarily, because some amount of sickness is good stress. It can be the good kind of stress for your body to go through to make you better, but you would be more connected with each other. We're all one as it comes out, and we're all part of a greater mass. And so if we're all connected, we can see other people for where they are, who they are, ourselves, and understand things, and there'd be a lot more love and a lot less hate. That's what I feel would happen.
Yeah, I think that the development of our culture would shift. So many people would feel, like you said, connected. There would be a lot more appreciation for real health. There would be a lot more appreciation for the arts, the humanities, the sciences, the arts, the philosophies. Right. And people would be in a more of a state of gratitude and love and appreciation rather than one of manipulation of fear and aversion. Right. I really believe that a lot of these courses of action that we're on right now with people being misled with information and fear, people would have a lot more sensibility to themselves to say that's not for me. And we believe in this and least invasive first and my body, my choice type stuff. And I think that when people do have the chiropractic philosophy and lifestyle and they are brought up in that type of surrounding, they start to realize that our bodies heal themselves and that we absolutely have all the capacity to be healthy. We just need no interference. That's why the check for vertebral subluxation is so imperative. And that's why the adjustment's so profound. And that's why what you experienced at 5 years old leading forward, you saw the health benefits of that. And you said, I'm going to do that. And I want to be that. And I want to serve that.
Yep. And that's what I do. One of the things that the questions that people have, okay, for me, and one of the things is, what are your hobbies? What do you do? What do you do for fun? I tell people I adjust people. I mean, really, I don't play golf. That would be god awful. I don't do the same way. What I do is I really love it. I can't explain the passion. When before I lived here in Boca Raton, Florida, I lived there for a lot of years, 20 years. And I'd come home from the office about 7:30, 7:45 at night. I'd pull into my driveway and there'd be about 7 or 8 kids from the neighborhood hanging out there waiting for me to come home because they wanted to come in and get adjusted. And so that's what I would do when I get home. And that's glorious. It opens my heart, keeps my heart open, and it makes me almost tear up thinking about it because that's the thing. And you can't fool kids. They understand. They have an understanding of what's really good for them and which way to go with that, and babies and stuff like this. And they love it. And that's my passion. That's my joy.
That's what you call an open heart story.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, mine's wide open when it comes to that. Wide open with that.
So where do you see chiropractic going in the next 20 years or so?
Well, I can quote Reggie on you again. That it'll be either everywhere or it'll be nowhere. If we can just all join together on principle and understand this, and people get to understand the reality of what chiropractic does, instead of it being a back pain problem or a headache problem. I have no problem with people starting off working with that. But when you get the big picture out there to people and they start to understand that it would be everywhere. One of my interesting little tidbits is I used to just work in my practice. I never really spoke anywhere to other doctors or anything. I spoke to students when I was at school, but never to doctors and things like this in the beginning. But when I made a commitment to say that I wanted to see everyone in this planet get the opportunity to be checked for subluxation in my lifetime, all of a sudden things opened up. They asked me to speak here, they asked me to speak there and stuff. And it's just because I've made that commitment. I want to see everybody have the opportunity to be checked in the world in my lifetime. And I'm not really a spring chicken anymore, so we got to do that.
Well, when you sent your bio over, you had some really impressive things that you were awarded by your peers, and one of those is the B.J. Palmer Award, and the other one is Researcher of the Year. Would you mind kind of expanding on what it felt like for you to be an achievement for those?
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiropractic Rocks, Chiro Tax Pro, and Digital Hustle. Let's hustle.
getting any award, is validating. I'm honored, and I'm honored that my peers would select me for that. The awards are nice, okay, but the mission is the reward, is the real reward, to fulfill the mission. That's what we're all about, and I intend to keep on doing that till I can't no longer do it at all. That's what those other rewards are acknowledgments, and I'm grateful for them. I know, but that's the big thing is the neat thing for me is being here at Sherman, and I have some students come up to me and they say, "Hey, I was supposed to tell you hello from my parents because they said you were their instructor," and things like that. That's neat. That means something to me. All the awards do too. I'm not saying they don't mean anything, but to see the generations occur because of work that I've done, that's what's most meaningful for me.
That's great.
I do have a son and a daughter-in-law who are chiropractors. I do have a daughter who's a counselor who does fantastic work, all toward this healing of the planet type of thing. And I'm very happy that we could work with them too. And I got a bunch of grandkids and great-grandkids around there too. That too. So.
Could you tell us maybe who are some of your heroes or who's inspired you over the course of your life, chiropractic or not? And
Sure.
if you pick one person to have lunch with, it could be anybody, who would that be?
That's easy for me. The one person I'd like to have lunch with from anybody, living or dead, would be B.J. Palmer, because I'd like to get into it and understand his head a little bit and what went on inside there, what his thoughts were. But people who have inspired me, from Reggie Gold and Irene from the beginning, through going to Palmer, Galen Price, and Virgil Strang, Jerry Klum back then, and then going to the DE meetings and Sid Williams. And I got to really know Dr. Sid very well. And that was special with that. And Al Reach, the guy out in Arizona, who was a big factor in my life. And he learned from Sigafus, who I also learned from later on. And then coming here at Sherman, Tom Gilardi and the people here, and Bill Decken, and all these guys are really inspirational to me. But the other thing is my family, my mother's uncle, the first chiropractor in the family. He was very inspiring. Okay, not in a teaching way, but just in his presence and what he did in the community. But I stay active. I go to places like New Beginnings and talk there, and DE. I've been talking there, and then the ICPA, Larry Webster and Jeannie O. And it still bothers me today from Jeannie's passing about a year ago and stuff. But these are all people who've inspired me all through. I've done a lot of reading. Reading Ralph Waldo Emerson has also been very inspirational to me. Things like this. So, for my age, I've been around.
I admire the depth of your connection with the profession, and it's honorable to be able to speak with somebody that's had 4 decades of experience in the chiropractic profession. And that's really what makes our show so unique and great, is we can talk to somebody that's been out of school for 2 years, or we can talk to somebody that's still a student. We can talk to somebody that supports the profession through endeavors of their business that supports chiropractic, or we can talk to somebody that has been educating, facilitating, networking, speaking, and giving their heart and soul to the profession for 44 years. And I really think that that's what makes what we do so powerful as a duo. What Luke and I do is we get a chance to touch lives and hearts with this chiropractic story so consistently.
You guys are extremely important for the world, okay? Because you are sharing all these different stories where people, if they can't relate to me, they might relate to somebody else. You're part of my mission with that. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep doing that. And I've been around for a while. Dr. Brian Dooley, in his class, had said to his students that I've been in chiropractic so long that we used to take notes with hammer and chisel. So maybe he's correct. I don't know, but I'm not negative about the profession, where it's going. I just see. I like to see the glass half full. I like to see it expanding and going out. And I think you're a big part of that by doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you for the acknowledgement. We love the opportunity to continuously support something that we believe in. And, to me, it was a calling. And when we started learning what chiropractic really did for like the macro, which is the individual, and what I realized it was doing for the family and the community. And I was always so curious why more people didn't just run to the chiropractic office and start lines around the blocks to be able to go in and see the chiropractor. And then I started doing some research of the history, and I started to understand that what really happened was the smear campaign against chiropractic, which had a generational meltdown when it came to people understanding what chiropractic really did for the health of their family, the individual, and the community. And that's why when I met John DeMartini, he told me that we needed more media leverage for chiropractic. And then I made it a mission of Luke and mine to be able to do that. And that's really what we're doing today, is we're carrying that torch of knowledge from the practitioner. And really, I've been interviewed a few times on other people's programs, but I always tell people it's not about Luke and I, it's about you. It's about your story. It's about the chiropractor telling the story, because that's really what was the mantra of old school DE. Tell the story, tell the story, tell the story. But now we have to figure out that if we can leverage media effectively, now we can get the story outside the four walls of chiropractic, and we can start influencing the hearts, the minds, and the ears of people out there that really need the chiropractic message. And when I started getting in 11 years ago to the chiropractic profession, I would go to seminars, and I would see that everybody at that place would get it. And then I would go to the clinic, and I worked in a clinic, and I would see what happened there. Everybody at the clinic would get it. But then if I went to the grocery store and I told somebody I worked at a chiropractic office, they'd be like, well, what do you got? Why would I go there?
Yeah.
So I was like, we really have some damage control to do to get the message out there and to disseminate the truth of chiropractic. And that's really why it's such an honor to have your story today, to be able to, just touch some more lives with this message.
It's great. There's also one other person I have to really acknowledge here, and that's my sister. My sister's a chiropractor. You may have interviewed her. I don't even know. Paula Hedgelon. She's one of the regular speakers at DE, and she's been a chiropractor for over 35 years, and does really well with that too. And so she's one of my mentors as well, even though she's my younger sister, and she calls me her way older brother. She's phenomenal, and I love her. She also is an inspiration to many, many people. That too.
So over the course of your chiropractic career, I'm sure you've tried a lot of different types of marketing to get patients in your door. What are some of your favorite marketing tactics? And then what are some other ones that just aren't for you at all?
Okay. No, I started out doing crazy marketing when I was first young. I'd do the free coupons and things like this. And I guess if the Groupon was around back then, I would probably use that. And basically, the best thing I have found is this. Of all the different types of things, I would talk to my patients and try to come and speak to groups that they belong to. Okay? I'd go to Tupperware parties and I'd speak about chiropractic. I'd go to different churches and speak about chiropractic. I'd go to wherever they have me and speak about chiropractic, school sessions, college sessions, things like this. And I found that this way, I have a person coming in based on understanding the principle and the philosophy, not on blind faith coming in. Okay. And what happened is I wound up having patients come into my office on a long term. You've probably heard of PVA, patient visit average, the average number of visits a person comes in. Mine was never below 100 in 40 years. Okay. I would get maybe 4 or 5 new patients a month, but they stayed and generations would stay. And I think it's because they came in based on the understanding of what we were about before they ever even started that. And then in my practice, whenever I had a new patient come in, it was mandatory within the first month of care that they came to a health talk. If they didn't come within the first month, I would decide whether I really wanted them as a patient or not. Okay? Because I wanted people coming in to understand the whole big picture. So that was the best marketing, was my own voice in the talking coming from education. Okay? Better than anything else that worked for me.
And then what's some bad marketing that you tried and you're like, I'll never do that again?
Oh, I'll tell you which one it was. I had this opportunity to go put myself up on a movie house. You know how movie theaters would have the thing where you can do a little advertisement of your office there, the local movie theater? I spent thousands of dollars on that, and I think I got one patient from that, and it was ridiculous. I mean, and I had like 3 people say, "Hey, I saw your picture in the movie theater," and that was about it. So I never would do that again. Different things like that. It was back before podcasts and stuff came around. I had my own radio show that I bought an hour's worth of time from a radio show, and I do interviews and things like this, and that was pretty neat. It was fun, but I didn't get a whole lot of people who came in from that into my office. I probably didn't do it right, but we had some pretty interesting times with that. So I wouldn't do that kind of stuff again. I would go for the education point with it. That's the way I would do it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are going to learn as they go. They're going to try different things.
Sure.
Like you said, the Groupon to the doctor's talk at the office to getting out to their community and meeting people. And I can't believe you said Tupperware. I'm sure that most people don't know what the heck that is now.
I know. I'm really dating myself there.
But that used to be a thing. Like people do Tupperware parties.
That's right.
I know I didn't like prep you for this or ask you this, but maybe you do know this story about Sid and Reggie doing pots and pans.
Oh yeah, they sold their pots and pans.
Can you tell that story? I think it'd be amazing.
I can tell a little bit about how Sid used to talk about it, and he never was very successful in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, I think he said his foot slipped in his shoe, or he tripped or something like that, and when he did, he looked at the pan and fell in love with the pan, and he said when he felt the love for the pan, then all of a sudden people started buying them left and right. I'm making it real short, but that's basically what happened, which was a good thing to understand. When you fall in love, passionately in love with something like that, it will give up its secrets. Larry Webster did that quote. He said, when you fall in love with chiropractic, and it's got to be a passionate love, chiropractic will give up its secrets. And, and that comes from Sid's story too, and the whole thing. But that's just it. I think when you fall in love with anything passionately like that, the universe opens up for you. Someone said to me years ago, because I had for a while a cooperative fee practice where we had people just pay what they can afford, the best they could afford with it. And I had people say, how can you do this? How can you survive with this? And I used to tell them this. I said, I have an agreement with God or the universe, or however you want to call it, or whatever. I said, I have an agreement. I said, I'm going to do his work, and he'll take care of me. And for 40 some odd years, and it's always been that way. You know, in my practice, I've never sent a bill to the patient. We'd always have, our fees there, and they would pay up front. I've never sent a bill to the patient. I've had everything I've wanted in my life. I've had my cars, a 280Z and a Jaguar and stuff like this, and a boat, and I have nice houses and everything I've ever wanted. And it's all come to me because of my love and my passion for chiropractic. Like that. That's been one of the biggest blessings. Now, am I a millionaire? No. But I didn't want to be a millionaire. I didn't care about all that. I just wanted to be comfortable. And so that's what happens with it.
Such a truth.
Yeah.
I don't know who told this story. I think it might have been Reggie Gold, where he also had a box on the wall and patients would put whatever they thought it was worth in there.
Mm-hmm.
And if they didn't put enough, he'd say, no, put a little more in there.
Sid Williams used to say he used to have a box on the wall, but when he'd hear coins drop in the box, he'd get negative, so he put cotton on the bottom of the box. The coins drop. Okay? That was one of the stories too. But I remember in one of my practices, it wasn't a box. It was like you had to pay the front desk girl, but it was pretty much, do the best you can. And this one patient who had just came in, he just started, and he had paid like about $100 for the x-rays and first visit or whatever it was. And he then looked at the CA and he said, here. He gave her an extra $100. He said, have Dr. Rossi have that so that if somebody else can't quite afford it, maybe that'll help the whole thing, because this is almost too good to be true. He said, so, people can pick up on that, the heart you're giving. And, Sid Williams always said, give for the sake of giving, love for the sake of love, and serve for the sake of serving, without looking for anything in return, out of your own abundance. And that's the big thing. I challenge people, if they really want to open up their hearts and do something, give someone a gift that they have no idea where it came from, which is truly giving someone, not looking for anything in return. See how they feel after that.
Yeah, I have quite a story I'll share with you briefly. And I think that what you're sharing is like sage wisdom to people. I was out for lunch on Sunday after church, and a friend I was with dropped $31, and a little boy rides up on his bike, and he goes to the waitress. We're waiting outside for a table. He goes to the waitress, hey, did anybody drop some money? I found $31. And he gives it to the waitress. My friend gives the little boy $10 of that money. And then the next day, we go to, he had a fishing pole with him. And I started just chatting with him a little bit about what he was going to do that day. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go fish. I'm going to catch the biggest carp in the river. And we just started laughing about it. He's like, yeah, my fishing line will hold up to 500 pounds, but I'm going to catch a 600-pound fish. Anyways, the next day, we took that other $21 and we went to Sportsman's Warehouse, and we got him a tackle box with hooks and sinkers. And he's 12 years old. And the lady that waited at this restaurant said, yeah, he's one of 7, and his mom doesn't really take care of him. And when he's hungry, he comes here and we all feed him. And to find that amount of honesty in somebody that young, that has nothing. And anyways, we went and got him this tackle box and gave it to him yesterday, or gave it to the restaurant that he goes and eats at, because they feed him. It just meant a lot to us. We got him some bag of Big League Chews, some Blow Pops, some Smarties, and a little thank you card, and wrote it in there. And then we took a picture of ourselves and sent it to the waitress, and the waitress is going to show him who gave him the tackle box. And then she's going to take a picture of him and his reaction and send it back to me so we can kind of see what happens. But that's just it. It's like when somebody's honest and they give, it creates this circle of life. Yeah. And when that guy gave that $100 to pay it forward, that's something that when you feel good, money doesn't matter.
That's right.
And when you're doing what you're supposed to, the abundance comes. And that's really why what you're talking about, you never worried about the $1 million. You always had a comfortable life, and what you wanted and what you needed were provided to you because you were serving.
And what primes the pump is gratitude. Gratitude is what primes the pump for the flow of everything coming to you. One of the tricks I used to tell chiropractors, and I think Parker did this, and I think DE did this, and everyone else, but the doctors who used to work with me, I'd say 5 thank you cards every day. I want to see you send them out. 5 thank you cards. And I remember I was told to do that. And when I was young, and I remember I sent a lot of thank yous to my mother and my father because I couldn't think of who else to thank. But then I started realizing all the people who really, the postman who always delivers the mail, the garbage collector who always collects the garbage on time, my patients who are just loving, wonderful people. I started doing 5 thank you grams every day, and usually it'd be the first thing I do in the day. With that, put the gratitude out first. With that, and I'm not doing it to see what comes back. I know everything's going to come back, and I'm not worried about it if it comes back today or 3-4 years from now or whatever. I'm not even worried about that. It's the sake of doing it. You do it for the sake of doing it.
So I like that you say that, because Luke and I are starting a new gratitude campaign for everybody that we've interviewed. We've done over 800 interviews in the past 3 years on chiropractic, and we're going to send out a coffee mug and a handwritten letter to each person that we've interviewed. And we call it a big lumpy package, because people appreciate a letter all day long. People appreciate an acknowledgement all day long. But people also, when you get an odd shaped package in the mail, that sends like a synapses to the brain. You're like, whoa, what's this? I'm excited for this thing. And then you open it, and it has a handwritten letter in there, and it has a coffee mug in there. So that's our reciprocity campaign that we're going to be doing, just to acknowledge everybody that's given us an hour of their time, and it's helped us build this brand.
That's nice. Yep. Good for you.
Well, we're starting to come up on the edge of our time here, but we do want to know, what would be some advice that you would give to a struggling student? And do you think they should pick schools based on geography?
Well, no, definitely not on geography. Okay. I think they should pick schools that they really resonate with from a heart and principle level. Okay. I taught at Life. I was involved with Life West. I love it here at Sherman. Of course, I'm going to say you should consider Sherman. Right? Of course, I'm going to say that. But you know what? You have to look at it. Is it right for me, and is this proper for me? Okay. Sherman Life is a very large school. Sherman is not. Some people resonate more to a large school. Some people resonate to the smaller school. And if you like a family, come to us. If you want to get lost in the crowd, go to Life. I'm not putting Life down. I'm saying some people prefer that type of thing. So I think they should look at school and how they feel, how it resonates to them with that. I was talking to a lady just the other day who was saying to me, she came up to here to Sherman and took a tour, and she said, I really love this place. She said, when I went to school, she's a chiropractor now. She went to school, she said she didn't even consider Sherman because of the location. Okay? But now she's like, I really feel like I missed out with that. So not just the location, look at everything and look at how it resonates to you. That's what I tell the students. Above that, with students, I tell them when you get into school, learn everything. Don't come in, and lots of them come in, they have a chiropractor at home, tells them, well, you don't have to know this, just do this or just do that, and we'll teach you what you need to know when you come out. Learn everything. Get to know everything. In other words, if I don't like a particular method of adjusting or a particular style of management, I can tell you why I don't like it, because I looked at it. You know, a lot of people walk through with blinders on, right? And they're just, I'm going to just do it this way. I'm not going to look at anything else. No, look at everything and make your own decisions. See what resonates to you. And then when you come out of school, find a location where you want to retire and open up there. Because you'll be happiest there. That's about it.
Our last question, you kind of already touched on that your hobby is adjusting.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you like to read and listen to?
Well, I do like to, a lot of motivational type things. I like to listen to On Purpose tapes from Chris Kent and his work with that. But for relaxation, just for fun, I like James Patterson novels. That's one of the things I'll read for fun, you know. I have my own favorite. We do like to go to the movies every so often. We'll go to the movies, and I like different types of movies there. I'm Italian from New Jersey, so I like all the mob films. I look for relatives in those films, you know. So, but, you know, that's kind of what I like to do. I would love to say that I read the Bible every day. I do read the Bible, but not every day. And I'd love to say that I read motivational things along the way. I'm actually writing a motivational daily reading book with chiropractic philosophy in the background. I'm actually writing that currently.
Very cool.
So, in between all my other things I'm doing. So.
And yeah, what are some websites people can go to if they want to see what you're doing?
Well, I don't particularly have my own website. Okay. I do have my Facebook page, Armand Rossi. I do have a Facebook page called Chiropractic Unlimited. Okay. And they can see certain things there. I was a member. I kind of backed off of it in somewhat of a sense of the chiropractic elders. You know, Jay Kamarick, Ken Harris. In fact, Jim, you interviewed us all on at Mile High.
I remember that.
Sure. And I'm not really active with them anymore because I've got so much more I'm doing here at Sherman. But the sage wisdom of the chiropractic elders is a good, you know, group to look into. For me, if anybody needs to contact, look me up on Facebook, Armand Rossi DC. I put things on there that I find interesting, motivational, humorous. I am not. If you're going to come on and just bash, then you're not going to be on long because I won't take that. Okay, in my viewpoint with it. But we like to share. We like to work with things like this and do that type of thing. And hopefully, you know, maybe one day I'll have my own podcast. I don't know, but maybe we'll do that if people want to learn. If I'm willing to share and teach and learn, if people want to listen to it, but I'm not going to force things down their throat either. So,
well, we just talked to faculty at Logan College and offered the opportunity to come and teach a master class to the students on upstart podcasting and distribution of the message. Mm-hmm. So if that's something that you guys would benefit from at Sherman, we'd love to do our rounds and do some educational resources. And I know from the opening of our interview today that you told us you're not too shy to admit that you can still learn. So
absolutely. I think Brian Dooley, got to contact Brian Dooley with that.
But I think it would be a really good fit for us to come out there. It's been a couple of years. I went out there a couple of years ago and taught marketing to the students, and I think it would be a very nice homecoming to come out there and see you guys again and to break bread with the Sherman family. And just to acknowledge you for your time with us today, we just want to thank you so much for being our guest and for sharing your wisdom and sharing your knowledge. And opening your heart to our audience today.
Thank you. I love doing it, and I appreciate you guys for everything you're doing too.
All right.
Thank you for being our guest today, and we just want you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Armand. Have a good day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.